Chapter 61 Contract. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Who are you? Why did you let Hulk run away, and why didn't you take action before? Seeing that the soldiers did not move, General Ross was a little annoyed. He walked up to Andrew and asked loudly. Andrew glanced at General Ross with contempt. General Ross screamed, raised his head and fell down with blood spurting out, a small curse. General Ross will keep vomiting blood for a while. I believe he will get used to it if he vomits and vomits. General Ross suddenly fell down, and the soldiers subconsciously raised their guns towards Andrew. Andrew glanced at them, and they put down their guns in horror. What a joke, this is the super boss who beat up the Hulk. Your general is not in good health. Remember to take him to see a doctor. Andrew snorted coldly, turned around and walked towards the building next to him. Mr. Wong's temper is as bad as ever. Natasha had a headache. She thought for a while and said to Professor Charles, "Professor, can you modify everyone's memory and extract Mr. Wong from the incident where General Ross vomited blood and fell into coma? I will not modify other people's memories unless necessary. Moreover, General Ross vomited blood on his own and has nothing to do with Mr. Wong." Professor Charles refused. Although he had godlike power, he never abused it. He knew very well that abusing power would only lead to him becoming a devil. The problem with Professor Charles is actually this. He is a saint, but as the saying goes, an honest official is more evil than a corrupt official. General Ross won't be so unreasonable. Forget it, leave it to Director Fury. Natasha shook her head. She didn't want to see the scene of the Ghost Rider fighting the American army. Then, the whole of New York would be set on fire. At this time, Andrew passed by Norman. He glanced at Norman and smiled. "Mr. Osborn, do you want to be like Iron Man?" Norman was a little embarrassed. He took off his helmet and said, "No, I was just experimenting with the product." "Mr. Wong, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. It's just a little bit of effort." Andrew said, "Norman wants to curse. Do you know how to curse?" Norman thought of something and asked hurriedly, "Mr. Wong, your Bugle Daily will not report what happened today, right?" Andrew said, "Of course it will, but don't worry, I won't report your part." "Thank you." Norman breathed a sigh of relief, thought for a while, pointed to the aircraft next to him and said, "Mr. Wong, if you are interested, I can sell you an aircraft at the cost price. Of course, there are no weapons on it." Andrew glanced at the aircraft and refused. "No, I'm not interested in it. It's not environmentally friendly." "Not environmentally friendly?" Norman was shocked. "Such a powerful aircraft, you actually rejected it because it is not environmentally friendly?" Andrew didn't say much, turned around and left. It was just an aircraft. With the arc reactor here, Howard could build it in minutes. What's more, Norman's flying machine is so ugly that his son Harry's Green Goblin skateboard would be just as good. Ignorance. Norman looked unhappy. He thought of something and called the cameraman over, only to find that all the data in the camera had disappeared. He was so angry that he cursed. Andrew returned to the building, and Gwen came over and said with a dissatisfied look, "Why are you touching Spider-Woman's head? Are you familiar with her?" Andrew couldn't help but smile and pinch Gwen's face, feeling jealous. "This girl is so cute." Gwen was a little embarrassed and angry. Just as she was about to say something, Andrew took her hand and said, "Let's go to Dr. Otto. I hope he is not scared." After hearing this, Gwen immediately forgot what happened before and took Andrew to the teaching building. She respected Dr. Otto very much, and he was an idealistic person. He had always wanted to create unlimited energy and make the world unified. Seeing Andrew leave, Natasha shook her head. Working with the military to deal with the aftermath was really a piece of cake. The American military was completely unreliable. Half an hour later, in a certain cave, Hulk roared to the sky in pain and gradually transformed into Dr. Banner. Then, Dr. Banner collapsed weakly on the ground. Betty hurriedly went up and hugged Dr. Banner, comforting, "Bruce, it's okay, it's okay." Dr. Banner smiled bitterly at Betty, and then the two cuddled together in the cave, full of confusion and despair about the future. At this moment, Dr. Banner's eyes dazzled and he appeared on a floating platform. He was wondering when he found Hulk standing next to him and backed away in fright. Hulk was also confused. At this time, when he saw Dr. Banner, he immediately clenched his fists and prepared to beat him. Although he didn't know what the situation was, he had long been unhappy with Dr. Banner. "Stop first, don't be impatient." Andrew in flame form said. Hulk sensed the familiar aura, deep fear flashed in his eyes, and he sat there honestly. Seeing Hulk being so obedient, Dr. Banner was a little surprised. He swallowed and asked Andrew, "Who are you?" "I am the Demon King of Hell." Andrew said, "Dr. Banner, I am here to make a deal with you. If you agree, you will get rid of the Hulk completely." Hulk growled in dissatisfaction. Andrew glanced at him, and he shut up immediately. "Hell demon? That's not scientific." "Well, it's not scientific here either." Dr. Banner thought for a moment and said, "What price do I need to pay to get rid of the Hulk completely?" "It's simple, the soul after death." Andrew smiled and said, "As long as you are willing to sign a contract and give me your soul after death, I will take action to separate you and Hulk. When the time comes, you will be you and Hulk will be Hulk." "Separate?" Dr. Banner glanced at Hulk and gritted his teeth and said, "Can Hulk be completely eliminated? If so, I am willing to give up my soul after death. Anyway, I will definitely not be able to go to heaven." Hulk was furious when he heard this, and immediately rushed towards Dr. Banner. Andrew waved his hand, and Hulk stopped in place, unable to move. Then, Andrew said to Dr. Banner, "Dr. Banner, you still don't want to admit that Hulk is a part of you." "I can destroy Hulk, but I won't do that because I want to invite Hulk to do it for me." "Work, of course, if you are willing, I would also like to invite you. After all, you are a super genius, although you have no scientific research achievements." "You don't have to say the last half of the sentence." Dr. Banner was a little worried. He looked at Andrew and said, "I really want to get rid of the Hulk, but I'm worried that you will use the Hulk to do evil." "Believe me, if I'm going to do evil, it doesn't matter if I do it with or without the Hulk." Andrew laughed. Banner hesitated and said, "I can sign a contract, but the contract must include the clause that the Hulk cannot be used to do evil. Add an attributive, Hulk cannot be used to do evil on a large scale, otherwise the scope will be too wide." Andrew said, "It would be considered evil if I let Hulk walk around the streets, because it would scare a lot of people." Dr. Banner couldn't help laughing, and Hulk said angrily, "Hulk, I'm very angry." "Sign it." Andrew waved his hand, and a contract appeared in front of Dr. Banner. He read it carefully and pressed his fingerprint. Chapter 62 Reshaping the Body. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. "Hulk, you finally have to get out of here. I can finally get rid of you." Dr. Banner looked at Hulk and said with relief, "If it weren't for Hulk, how could he change from a great scientist to a wanted criminal who could only hide in Tibet?" Dr. Banner hates Hulk extremely in his heart, which is why he has been unwilling to admit that Hulk is a part of him. Hulk looked at Dr. Banner angrily, "Without me, you would have died long ago, weakling." "Good." Andrew said, "Next, I will take a tube of blood from you, and then purify this tube of blood and turn it back into normal blood. After that, I will use this tube of blood to recast your body. When the body is recast, I will split your soul into two, one part is Hulk, and the other part is you." Dr. Banner was a little shocked. "I want to leave my body." Hulk laughed, "You are the one who wants to get out. It's more convenient this way." Andrew smiled and waved his hand, and Dr. Banner's consciousness was sent back to his body. Dr. Banner opened his eyes and found that Betty had fainted at some point, and at the same time, a ball of flame stood in front of him. "Here we go." Andrew clapped his hands, and a large number of magic runes appeared on the ground. Then, these magic runes formed a mysterious magic array. A large amount of magic energy emerged from the array, filling the surrounding area with a strange and burning atmosphere, as if he was in hell. Dr. Banner was trembling a little. Just as he was about to say something, Andrew pulled out a ball of red blood from his body. Then, Andrew's hand shook, and the red blood turned into violent green blood. as if he would jump up and hit someone at any time. Andrew smiled slightly, and a large amount of magic power was injected into the green blood in the form of runes. The green blood was quickly purified and turned back into red blood. Body recasting. Then, Andrew sent the blood into the magic circle. The magic circle glowed with black light, and the blood quickly swelled and turned into a complete human blood vein. Such a huge fluctuation in magic power was immediately noticed by the Karma Taj New York temple. The temple master Daniel was preparing to lead the mages to suppress the demons. A portal appeared in front of them. Immediately afterwards, Cassius emerged from the portal. Walked out, Cassius said, "Master Daniel," the teacher said, "don't pay attention to this matter." Master Daniel asked in confusion, "Why?" "This is obviously the magic wave of hell." "Because he is not an enemy." Cassius didn't say much. He looked at the direction of the magic burst with a very hot expression. In the cave, Dr. Banner looked at the gradually forming body and kept muttering to himself, "This is not scientific, this is not scientific." Andrew asked Dr. Banner, "How old do you want your body to be? Is this okay?" 18 years old, forget it, let's stick to the current age. Dr. Banner glanced at the unconscious Betty and said a little awkwardly that he didn't want to lose his girlfriend because of his age. Good. With a press of Andrew's hand, Dr. Banner's copy was completely formed and floating in the air naked. It is worth mentioning that although this body is the same age as the original body, it looks obviously younger than the original body. Dr. Banner has suffered so much that he looks much older than he is. Then comes the soul. Andrew grabbed Dr. Banner's soul from the air. Then, with a wave of his hand, the soul was split into two, and the consciousnesses of Banner and Hulk were completely separated. When I make deals, I always deliver the goods at a genuine price. If you meet me, I will tell you your fortune. Andrew took out 2 soul gold coins, extracted the soul essence and sent it into the souls of Banner and Hulk. The 2 incomplete souls quickly recovered. Without this step, the 2 of them would be weak for a long time, and their souls would not be easily restored. Finally, Andrew sent the souls of Dr. Banner and Hulk into their bodies respectively. Dr. Banner fell to the ground with a thud, and Hulk turned into the Hulk form. Then, Hulk opened his eyes and growled excitedly. He was finally free, completely free. Andrew asked Hulk, "Hulk, are you interested in working for me?" "Hell, I will not let you down." Hulk hesitated and asked, "Can you fight every day?" Andrew smiled and said, "Hulk, you are not a beast. Your life should not only be about fighting." Hulk said, "Hulk, angry, wants to fight." Andrew said, "The reason why you are so angry all the time is because you have been out for too short a time. Don't worry, you will have plenty of time to learn how to behave." Hulk said, "You are super powerful, Hulk, I am willing to follow you." "Very good." Andrew nodded with satisfaction. He was about to send Hulk back to the hell of rebirth. At this moment, Ancient One's voice sounded in his ears, "If you can, leave a tube of Hulk's blood for Dr. Banner. He will need it." "Okay." Andrew thought for a while, but did not refuse. Then, he placed a tube of Hulk's blood in Dr. Banner's hand and said, "Put it away and don't throw it away. After injecting this tube of angry blood, you will become the Force again. Infinity, the invulnerable Hulk." Andrew used suggestive magic in this sentence, and Dr. Banner subconsciously grabbed the syringe. Unless something unexpected happened, he would not abandon this tube of blood. Hulk said contemptuously from the side, "Weak chicken. Even if he changes back to the Hulk, he will never be as powerful as before. More importantly, he will lose the ability to become more powerful the angrier he gets. Simply put, he is a shrunken product." Andrew shook his head and sent Hulk to the hell of rebirth, where Master Mimicry was already waiting. When she saw Hulk, she said coldly, "The Demon King appointed me to be your guide. Come with me and I will show you around. Visit the hell of rebirth." Seeing that Taskmaster was not afraid of him, Hulk was a little happy and followed Taskmaster like a big child. Hulk is just a kid, well, a naughty kid. The Demon King shook his head. Next, he will turn Hulk into the Vanguard General who will be reborn in hell. After a while, Dr. Banner woke up in the cave. He felt the Hulk completely leaving and couldn't help crying, tears of joy. Betty was awakened by Dr. Banner's cry. She looked at Dr. Banner with a look of astonishment on her face. Why was he not wearing clothes? Also, where did he get the whitening and rejuvenation surgery and he became so white and young? Can you give me a phone number? In the hospital, General Ross pointed in the direction of the ward and roared at Norman, "Is this what you call success? Norman Osborn, your human enhancement potion failed." In the ward, 5 enhanced soldiers were lying unconscious, and the remaining one was already dead. Just as Norman was about to answer, General Ross suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Norman's face was covered in blood and he quickly stepped back. General Ross was very surprised that he was vomiting blood again. He turned to the doctor and roared, "What's going on? Didn't you say I'm fine? Why are you vomiting blood again?" The doctor tremblingly replied, "I don't know what's going on. Your body is indeed fine and healthy." General Ross grabbed the doctor's collar and said angrily, "Are you trying to tell me that a healthy person vomits blood several times a day?" Chapter 63 Industrial Expo. You are listening at MTnovel.audio. Let's check it again and I'll arrange the equipment. The doctor screamed, and General Ross let him go and shouted, "Why don't you go quickly?" Norman wiped the blood on his face and said coldly, "You keep vomiting blood, maybe it has something to do with Andrew Wong." "Andrew Wong? I will go find him after I finish dealing with Banner," General Ross said very fearfully, and then he asked Norman again, "Norman, your potion failed, how did you promise me in the first place?" "I didn't fail. They only completed the first stage of strengthening, and my potion still has the second stage." Norman defended, "I will inject them with the second stage medicine right away, and they will be back to their best condition soon." "It better be so." General Ross snorted coldly. He thought for a while and ordered to the soldiers beside him, "Contact SHIELD and ask them to monitor the flow of information on the internet." Banner came to New York to find a doctor named Mr. Lon, monitoring the 2 keywords Mr. Blue and Mr. Green. "I want to find Banner in the shortest possible time. In addition, I want to warn SHIELD that this time, our military will take the lead." S.H.I.L.D is an agency affiliated with the United Nations. This is the United States, and the military's brand is stronger than SHIELD. The soldier immediately responded, "Yes." Norman said, "I was not prepared this time. I will definitely be able to catch Banner next time. What Andrew Wong can do, I, Norman Osborn, can do the same." General Ross glanced at Norman and snorted, "Anyone can tell lies, I only look at the facts." A few days later, in the early morning, Tony Stark was awkwardly preparing breakfast at the Malibu villa. He had not been out for a long time. "The reason why I didn't go out was partly because I was researching new elements and new suits, and partly because I didn't want to go out. The last time I was hung on a tower, it was really embarrassing." As we all know, Tony Stark valued his face more than his life. Still important. Andrew King. Tony muttered Andrew's name, his eyes full of fighting spirit. In a few months, he had found out the identity of Andrew Wong and knew that he was the Ghost Rider who was so cool that he had no friends. Tony could not forget the contemptuous look in his eyes, nor could he forget the newspaper's remarks that he was far inferior to Ghost Rider. He wanted to prove to everyone that he was more powerful than Ghost Rider. This was why he had been studying the suit for the past few months. One of the reasons, throughout his life, Tony was no weaker than anyone else. At this time, the artificial intelligence Jarvis reminded, "Mr. Stark, tonight you have to attend the opening ceremony of the Stark Industry Expo." "I remember." Tony said, "Send me an invitation letter to Andrew Wong. I want to talk to him about the acquisition of the space station, and by the way, let him see my charming style." Jarvis said, "Yes, Mr. Stark." Pepper came out of the bedroom. When she saw Tony, she was happy at first, and then said sarcastically, "Who are you? Am I not the only one who lives in this house?" Tony knew that he had neglected Pepper during this period, and said hurriedly, "Pepper, I prepared breakfast specially for you." Pepper glanced at the strawberry bread on the table and was speechless. She complained, "Do you know that I'm only allergic to one thing in the whole world?" Tony was immediately embarrassed and hurriedly threw away the strawberry bread. "Tony, I have something serious to tell you." Pepper didn't bother to argue. After all, this was the man she had chosen. No matter how bad things went, she had to grit her teeth and hold on. She said, "Since you became Iron Man, the military has been using various methods to force you to hand over the iron suit." Tony snorted coldly, "They are dreaming. I will never hand over the steel suit." "Pepper, you don't have to persuade me." "I don't intend to persuade you. Just because you don't understand me doesn't mean I don't understand you." Pepper said, "The problem is that in the past month, they have suddenly stopped moving and even cancelled hearings. This is obviously a problem." Tony's eyes narrowed and he asked, "You mean, they got the suit from other places? For example, Obadiah?" Pepper shook his head and said, "No, according to the information Rhodes gave me, the military has been in frequent contact with Hammer Industries recently." "Hammer Industries?" "Pepper, I didn't expect you to tell jokes." Tony laughed. Hammer Industries made its fortune by copying the arms of the Stark Group. The Stark Group has at least hundreds of patent lawsuits going on with them. With the scientific research capabilities of Hammer Industries, there is only one possibility to replicate the steel suit. "Humanity is about to be destroyed," Pepper said. "I'm not kidding. Hammer Industries is also participating in the Expo this time. You have to be careful." "Don't worry, Hammer Industries is nothing." Tony didn't take Hammer Industries seriously at all. Pepper shook his head and went to the bathroom to wash up. At this time, Jarvis prompted, "Mr. Stark, Mr. Fury is calling." Tony said, "It seems trouble is coming, come in." Soon, the one-eyed Nick Fury appeared in the holographic projection and said, "Tony, there may be a catastrophe in Manhattan recently." While talking, Nick Fury sent information about the Hulk to Tony. Tony was not frightened, but was a little excited. "What a big guy. I can use it to test my new suit. Don't underestimate the enemy. He is very dangerous. I will ask Logan and Barton to come back to help you." Nick Fury said that Logan was in Canada looking for memories while Barton was at home on vacation. Tony said with high spirits, "Don't worry, I won't be careless. I will prove to everyone that the patron saint of New York is not the Ghost Rider, but me, Iron Man, Tony Stark." After hearing this, Nick Fury silently removed the information that Andrew Wong beat the Hulk violently, so as not to hurt Tony Stark. At night, Stark Industries Expo in Flushing, Queens, New York. While flipping through the catalog, Andrew asked Howard, "I heard that Tony opened the expo in memory of you. Are you very touched? What's so exciting?" "If you hadn't brought me here, boss, I wouldn't have come. My artificial intelligence is almost complete," Howard said with disdain, and Andrew smiled. "Then let's go back. It's a waste of time anyway. We don't even have a hover car. It's a failure." Howard hurriedly stopped Andrew. "No, you're here, just take a look." Andrew looked at Howard with a half-smile. Howard was a little embarrassed and quickly changed the subject. "After all these years, the hover car has still not been invented. It is indeed a failure. Decades ago, I exhibited a semi-finished product." "Yes, a semi-finished product that floats for a few seconds and then falls down," Andrew complained. At this time, there was a burst of cheers from the middle of the venue, but it was Iron Man flying towards this direction. Andrew shook his head. "Your son is as pushy as ever." Howard pretended to say, "You are a shameless person. You haven't learned my low-key and restrained ways at all." Andrew said contemptuously, "Are you sure you have that thing?" During the joking, Tony Stark's figure appeared above the stage, and everyone cheered louder. Tony smiled proudly and prepared to land like a superhero. At this moment, a whip full of electricity swung from below and wrapped around Tony's calf. Before Tony could react, the electric whip was pulled hard, and Tony was thrown heavily onto the booth. The booth made of steel frame was smashed into a big crater on the spot, and a group of beauties dressed as Iron Man stepped back in fright. Then, the whip was retracted, and a tall and rough gray suit holding two electric whips flew out from behind the curtain. Chapter 64 Whipping Ivan. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. Ah! Seeing that the Expo suddenly turned into a battlefield, everyone hurriedly backed away. However, many people did not leave. They gathered around and took videos with their mobile phones while watching the excitement, such as Andrew and Howard. At this time, Ivan in the gray suit shouted to Tony on the booth, "Tony Stark, you Stark family are all thieves, and the Vank family is here for revenge." Vank? Howard was stunned when he heard this. It was actually the son of an old friend who came to seek revenge on Tony. The Vank family? Never heard of it. Also, you are the thief. You stole my arc reactor. Tony flew up, raised his left hand and prepared to fire the pulse cannon at Ivan. Ivan hit Tony's palm with an electric whip, and the muzzle exploded with a pop, sending out a lot of sparks. The arc reactor belongs to our Vank family. Ivan shouted loudly and swung the electric whip towards Tony. Tony did not dare to hit him hard and flew to the side to avoid it. The booth was split into two by the whip, and the fracture was red. My opening ceremony. Tony was very dissatisfied, and two micro-missiles flew out from behind and shot at Ivan. Ivan waved his whip and exploded the micro-missiles. Tony took the opportunity to rush towards Ivan quickly, and Ivan knocked him away with his backhand. Then, he waved his whip and wrapped around Tony, and Tony's control panel fluctuated with electricity. "Come here." Ivan smiled ferociously, retracted the whip, and Tony flew towards Ivan involuntarily. Ivan punched him in the face, sending him flying again. Then, Ivan repeated his old trick and pulled Tony over again. Tony accelerated halfway, threw Ivan to the ground with a bang, and smashed Ivan's faceplate with his fist. Ivan took a few punches and knocked Tony over with force. Then he got up and whipped Tony hard. Tony rolled to avoid it, and a large number of induced bombs flew out from behind and exploded on Ivan's face mask, causing Ivan to lose sight immediately. Tony took the opportunity to pounce on Ivan. Ivan whipped his whip and tied Tony tightly. Due to the influence of the current, Tony's system gradually became unstable. "Tony Stark, your end has come." Ivan shouted and controlled two missiles to shoot out from his shoulders. Tony's expression changed. He clenched his fists and hesitated. There is a recently developed laser device on the back of Tony's hand. It is so powerful that it can even cut through steel suits. The problem is that there are too many onlookers around, and it is very likely that the laser will accidentally injure him. Just when Tony hesitated, a black suit rushed out, knocking Ivan away and rolling on the ground. However, Howard saw that his son was in danger and couldn't help but take action. "This is the classic beating of my son." Andrew complained that, speaking of it, Ivan's life experience is quite similar to that of the protagonist in the novel. Unfortunately, he only has the life of a villain and not the life of a protagonist. Tony saw the black suit and asked unhappily, "How on earth did you get in? Didn't the Stark Group's security guards go to work?" "Young man from the Vank family, the arc reactor was jointly developed by your father and Howard Stark." Howard ignored Tony and shouted to Ivan, who got up. "Also, Howard did not betray your father. He drove him away back then to protect him." "Protect him? Do you know how my father died?" "He died of poverty. He was sick and had no money for medical treatment. He died of poverty." Ivan shouted angrily, "This is all because of the Stark family, and I want them to pay the price. Isn't it your own responsibility that your father is sick and has no money for medical treatment? You can develop a steel suit and an arc reactor, but is it difficult to earn money to buy medicine?" Tony shouted, "I don't know about the grudges of the previous generation, I only know that you are a waste. It's all your Stark family's fault." Ivan was speechless. He roared and prepared to attack again. At this moment, Obadiah's roar came from the communication channel, "Ivan, you lunatic, leave quickly." Ivan cursed, took out a bomb from his waist and threw it at the crowd. Then, he flew straight into the sky and fled away. Upon seeing this, Tony hurriedly rushed towards the bomb, and then he threw the bomb into the sky with great force, and the bomb exploded with a bang in the sky. Tony breathed a sigh of relief. He turned around and found that the black suit had disappeared. He immediately cursed in annoyance, "Is this guy a ghost? So elusive." Next, it was natural to clean up the mess. A large number of reporters came over to interview Tony. Tony ignored them and walked towards Andrew, who was about to leave. Tony was a little embarrassed when he saw Andrew. After all, he had planned to show off in front of him, but he was beaten around. Tony said straight to the point, "Mr. Wang, who is good at making fire and kung fu, I want to buy the small space station of your rebirth group." "Okay, I'll let Susan talk to you about the specific price." However, when Dr. Reed goes to the space station, 2 people from the rebirth group will accompany him, and we have a small experiment to do. Andrew nodded. It was time to make some extra money, and annexing Hammer Industries would require a lot of capital. In addition, Andrew has no interest in the space station. When the time comes, he will establish bases on the Moon and Mars. Anyway, robots are not afraid of harsh environments. Tony didn't object. He nodded and said, "No problem." After discussing the business, Andrew was not interested in staying any longer and turned around to leave with Howard. Tony looked unhappy. "Why don't you mock me a few times, completely ignoring me like this? I'm very hurt, you know." Ignoring it means that the other party doesn't take you seriously at all. At this time, a fat man came running towards us while wiping his sweat. Tony, who was so angry and had no place to vent his anger, saw him and immediately shouted, "Happy, let's talk about today's security issues." After giving Happy a lesson, Tony left the aftermath to the omnipotent Pepper and returned home to investigate the Vank family's intelligence. "The arc reactor was developed by my father and Anton Vank." Tony frowned. There was no doubt that the previous attacker was Anton Vanko's son, Ivan Vanko. After thinking about it, Tony called his good friend Rod and asked him to help investigate Ivan Vank and Hammer Industries. His intuition told him that there was a connection between them. Rhodes was somewhat silent when he received the call. After a moment, he said, "Tony, I shouldn't tell you this, but you are my good friend and I can't hide it from you. The military chose me to be the driver of a new suit produced by Hammer Industries. In fact, I am now at Hammer Industries' warehouse in Flushing, and Hammer is preparing to display the new suit at the Expo." Tony was speechless. He cursed, "You traitor. I am a soldier and I must obey orders from above." Rhodes said, "Tony, if you don't want to hand over the suit to the military will definitely have to find another collaborator. The military has done nothing wrong in this matter." "You did nothing wrong. Ivan Vank is not a good person. You have all been taken advantage of by him." Tony snorted and said, "Rod, this matter may cause a huge disaster. You must help me investigate." Rhodes hesitated and said, "Okay, I'll check it for you, Tony. This matter is very sensitive. Don't act rashly. Wait for my call. As much as possible." Tony put down the phone unhappily, and then he got up to repair his suit. No matter how many other suits were out there, Tony Stark firmly believed that his suit was the best, because this suit was created by him, Tony Stark. Chapter 65 Dr. Stern. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the Flushing warehouse of Hammer Industries, Justin Hammer, wearing glasses and looking like a gentle scum, roared at Ivan, "You idiot, madman, who asked you to attack Tony Stark?" "Of course it's me, can it be you?" Ivan sneered and fed the parrot in the cage without caring. Hammer was so angry that he almost went crazy. Obadiah smoothed things over and said, "Hammer, don't be angry. At least Ivan has proven that he is more powerful than Tony Stark. I believe the military will not care about this." In fact, Obadiah is also dissatisfied with Ivan's arbitrary assertions, but he is often with Tony Stark and has long been accustomed to this kind of nonsense. This kind of thing must never happen again. You are not allowed to leave here before the Expo. In addition, I will change the password of the suit. You can no longer use the suit without my consent. Hammer snorted and left angrily. When he left, Ivan and Obadiah both smiled disdainfully. Change password? How stupid can someone think that changing their password is useful? Ivan, you are too impulsive today. Obadiah said to Ivan, Tony Stark is not stupid. If you alert the enemy this time, he will definitely find that there is a problem with Hammer Industries. In other words, our original plan cannot be used. Without that black suit, I would have killed Tony Stark. Ivan didn't think he was wrong. He said, since we have alerted the enemy, we will take action in advance. You, me, the military's war machines, plus 30 unmanned suits provided by Hammer Industries, will definitely be able to defeat the enemy. Could kill Tony Stark. Obadiah sighed and said, we can only take action in advance. Thinking of something, Ivan asked, by the way, have you transported the extra batch of arc reactors we made? During this time, Obadiah and Ivan not only used the production line of Hammer Industries to complete their own suits, but also secretly manufactured an additional batch of arc reactors. The money for these arc reactors was paid by Obadiah. Ivan didn't ask where the money came from because he didn't care. He only had one purpose, which was to kill Tony Stark. Of course, Ivan will definitely take precautions. He is never stupid. Already shipped. Obadiah didn't say much. He said, Ivan, don't be impulsive this time, follow my command, we will find an opportunity to lure Tony over, and then send him on his way. After saying that, Obadiah glanced at Ivan, and a cold light flashed deep in his eyes. After Tony dies, it will be your turn. Obadiah had no intention of subduing Ivan, because he couldn't subdue him. This guy's temper was worse than Tony's, and he didn't want to serve a second master. After taking care of Tony, I will capture Ivan and give it to the organization. This gift is enough for me to gain a foothold within the organization. Thinking of the organization he joined, Obadiah felt hot in his heart. His previous vision was too short-sighted. Being rich was not enough, and he had to rule the world. Up to you. Ivan replied casually. At this time, through the surveillance, he saw a person sneaking into the warehouse, and he immediately smiled. I think our opportunity has come. After getting rid of the Hulk, Dr. Banner and Betty lived a happy life for a few days. Dr. Banner, who would never transform again, felt that the world was infinitely beautiful and completely different from before. I hope I never see the Hulk again in this life. Dr. Banner thought to himself. Betty leaned on him and said, Banner, let's leave New York and find a small country to live in. I think so too, but we still have something to solve. Dr. Banner said, I once sent a tube of blood to Mr. Lon. I want to go find him and destroy the tube of blood. In addition, Mr. Lon may be able to develop an antidote to restrain Hulk. I am a little worried about Hulk. Who will cause big things in the future? Betty asked curiously, who took Hulk away? Cannot say. Dr. Banner shook his head and said, after we finish this, we will go to find a small place to live abroad. Betty, will you marry me? Betty cried with joy, I have been waiting for this sentence for 5 years. Dr. Banner hugged Betty and vowed in his heart that he would not let this woman down. Then, Dr. Banner disguised himself and went to the library, where he used a public computer to send an email to Mr. Lon and arranged a meeting with him. Dr. Banner didn't know that because his email contained the words Mr. Blue and Mr. Green, it was monitored by S.H.I.E.L.D., and General Ross locked the location and true identity of Mr. Blue. Dr. Samuel Stern, Department of Cellular Life, Grayburn College, Manhattan. Go to Grayburn College immediately. General Ross shouted excitedly. Norman, and the 5 enhanced people headed by Bronsky, who had recovered after the second phase of the experiment, nodded at the same time. Bronsky and the others were excited and finally had a chance to take revenge. Norman keenly noticed that Bronsky and others were in an unusually high mood. He frowned secretly. Could it be that his potion failed again? Set off. General Ross shouted, as S.H.I.E.L.D. The military is unreliable. There may be big trouble this time. We must be prepared. Natasha said to Wolverine Logan and Hawkeye Barton, who came to support them. In addition to the 3 of them, there was also a complete S.H.I.E.L.D. team. As long as the opponent is not Magneto, there is nothing to be afraid of. Logan said arrogantly while holding a cigar, and Barton asked, what if it's Andrew King? The weather is nice today. Logan looked out the window and said with an expression of appreciation of the night view. Natasha and Barton looked at the dark clouds in the sky with expressions of contempt. Barton thought of something and asked, Cortana, where is Tony? Why didn't he come? Natasha said, he is repairing his suit. He will come over in a while. Let's go first. On the roof of the Rebirth building, Andrew drank tea slowly, waiting for the drama to begin. Howard and Frank sat beside him to accompany him. Howard asked, Boss, are you waiting for trouble at Hammer Industries? Are you worried about Tony? Andrew smiled and said, there will be trouble over there, but it's not as big as here in Manhattan. The main event is here. After speaking, Andrew snapped his fingers, and two light curtains appeared in front of him. One was the warehouse of Hammer Industries, and the other was inside Grayburn College. Howard exclaimed, there's chaos in Manhattan too. Wow, how long has New York just been peaceful? Frank was also very shocked. He called his family and asked them not to go out at night. To be honest, he was seriously considering moving now. New York is a place with good feng shui, a large number of talented people, and simple folk customs. Andrew thought of something and said to Frank, by the way, Frank, during this time you go to participate in astronaut training. In a month, you and Susan will go to the space station together. Chapter 66 Trap. You are listening at MTnovel.audio. To the space station. Frank was very puzzled. He was not a professional astronaut. You'll know then. Andrew didn't say much. He wanted Frank to take advantage of the adventure. When the cosmic storm comes, there is a high probability that people in the space station will gain supernatural powers. The reason why more people are not sent up is, on the one hand, the limited capacity of the space shuttle, and on the other hand, Andrew has some ideas about cosmic storms, which will be discussed in detail later. That's okay. Frank didn't ask any more questions. Anyway, the boss would not treat him badly. If he accumulated more merit, his family could live a long life. At this time, in the light curtain, military vehicles drove into Grayburn College in a hurry. Both Howard and Frank knew that the drama had begun. In the college, Dr. Banner was very glad that he came here. The reason was very simple. The tube of blood he sent to Dr. Stern was copied in large quantities by Dr. Stern using a special method and spread all over the room. To be honest, Dr. Banner's face turned pale when he saw the blood. Is this because he thinks the world is not chaotic enough? The blood sample you gave me was too small to do the experiment, so I replicated it using a concentration method to create a large number of new samples. Dr. Stern did not know what Dr. Banner was thinking. He was very proud of his masterpiece. Although their concentration is not high, they are very useful. Mr. Green, studying them will allow us to win the Nobel Prize. Dr. Stern was excited when he thought about the upcoming fame and fortune. Unfortunately, Dr. Banner poured cold water on him. No, these must all be destroyed. They are too dangerous and cannot be kept. Dr. Stern was somewhat reluctant. Gamma technology has great prospects. These things can help us treat hundreds of diseases. Those people would just make weapons out of them. Dr. Banner was arguing with Dr. Stern when an anesthesia needle shot him in the back. He fell weakly. Betty rushed over to help him, but was pushed to the ground by Bronsky, who rushed in. Then, Bronsky grabbed Dr. Banner's shoulder and shouted frantically, let him come out quickly, I want to see him. Betty shouted, the Hulk is gone and Bruce is just a regular guy now. What? Blonsky, the other enhanced men, Norman who came over, General Ross, and the SHIELD agents nearby were all dumbfounded. Our pants were, we have made so many preparations and used so many people. Now you tell us that Hulk has left? Are you kidding us? Dr. Stern said cautiously, there are no Hulk cells in Mr. Banner's body. I can be sure of this. Blonsky shouted frantically, I don't care, let him come out, or I will beat you to death. General Ross frowned and glared at Norman. Is this what you call success? Norman was about to speak when he suddenly realized something was wrong and immediately took a step back. The next second, General Ross opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. He calmly wiped the blood with a handkerchief and asked someone to pull Bronsky away. Dr. Stern looked at General Ross with admiration. He was truly an American soldier. He even vomited blood without changing his expression and looked as if he was used to it. As for General Ross's daughter Betty, she did not see General Ross vomiting blood because her mind was entirely on Dr. Banner. "I don't care if you are an ordinary person, Bruce Banner, I will treat you well." General Ross snorted and asked someone to carry Dr. Banner down on a stretcher. Norman followed General Ross away with a look of displeasure. Bronsky and the other 5 enhanced people stayed, their eyes full of unwillingness. At this time, Blonsky thought of something and turned his attention to Dr. Stern. At the shield base, Logan said unhappily, "It's a waste of time, I still want to meet the Hulk." Natasha was about to speak when her cell phone rang. After she answered the call, Tony's voice came out, "Natasha, I need help." "Good." After listening to what Tony said, Natasha nodded and said, "I will notify the Mutant Academy and ask them to send people to support you. However, S.H.I.E.L.D. and the X-Men only have a cooperative relationship. Afterwards, you have to repay the Mutant Academy." Then, Natasha put down the phone and said, "There's something going on with Tony. There's going to be a lot of trouble tonight." Logan said, "What happened to that rich guy? Should we go over to help? Anyway, everything is fine here." "No, my intuition tells me that this matter won't end that easily." Natasha shook her head. "Of course, I hope my intuition is wrong. Hey, when will Coulson come back? I'm really not used to being a commander." Let's push the time forward a little. Tony Stark repaired the Mark VI suit and was about to join Natasha and the others. At this moment, Rhodes called. Tony asked, "Rod, did you find anything?" "Tony, not only did I meet Ivan Vanko, I also met, Rhodes screamed and the call was suddenly interrupted. Tony was startled and hurriedly dialed back, only to find that the other party's phone had been turned off. "Damn it, Jarvis, equip yourself with a suit." Tony cursed and immediately equipped the Mark VI. Rhodes was helping him check things, and he would never let anything happen to the other party. Of course, Tony was not careless. Before setting off, he called Natasha and asked S.H.I.E.L.D. to support him. After getting Natasha's permission, Tony rushed to his destination at full speed. Soon, he arrived at the warehouse of Hammer Industries. Before he got close, he found Rhodes standing in the square wearing a gray suit, a visor not closed, so Tony recognized the other person. Tony fell from the sky next to Rhodes and asked anxiously, "Rhodes, how are you?" Seeing Tony appear, Rhodes' expression changed and he shouted hurriedly, "Tony, run quickly, this is a trap." Just as Tony was about to speak, the lights in the distance turned on. Then, 2 steel suits and 30 unmanned suits appeared around the square, surrounding Tony. Tony's heart sank. He knew there was a trap, but he didn't expect it to be such a big trap. Then he complained, "Is this your taste or Hammer's taste? Forgive me, they are really ugly. If you don't have money to hire a designer, I can pay to hire one for you." "Tony, your mouth is still as poisonous as ever." Obadiah opened his helmet and laughed. It is worth mentioning that his suit is particularly big, and the Iron Overlord is worthy of his name. Obadiah. Tony was stunned. He didn't expect that Obadiah, Ivan Vank, and Hammer would actually collude together. In fact, Hammer was just a big guy who provided money and effort. Obadiah shouted, "It's me, Tony, I'm here to take back what's mine." "What's yours?" "Your toilet." Tony snorted coldly. "Obadiah, Ivan Vank, do you think I will be afraid of you, a loser group?" Chapter 67 Laser. You are listening at MTnovel. Tony Stark, the grudges between the Vank family and the Stark family will be completely resolved tonight. Ivan didn't want to talk nonsense. He raised his hand and 30 unmanned suits flew in a circle towards Tony and Rhodes. At the same time, the machine guns behind them were activated, aiming at Rhodes and Tony. How despicable! Tony cursed and kicked Rhodes to the ground. Then, the backs of his hands lit up red, and 2 red lasers roared out. As he turned, most of the unmanned suits around him were cut into pieces. In both halves, the fracture is filled with red color representing high temperature. Obadiah and Ivan were shocked at the same time. Tony Stark actually had such a powerful killing move. Fortunately, they let the unmanned suits take the lead, otherwise, they would be the ones being cut open. On the rooftop, Howard couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when he saw Tony showing off his power. He said proudly, as expected of his son, he has at least learned 30% of my skills. Andrew sneered, are you talking about bragging? What's the point of having too many people? The most important thing about a steel suit is its core technology. Tony said proudly, you won't be able to catch up with my skills in 100 years. Ivan, do you think I really lost to you before? If there weren't so many people, you would have died long ago. Obadiah looked at Tony with fear and did not dare to step forward easily. At this time, Ivan sneered, this trick is indeed very powerful, but it can only be used once. Tony, do you think you can scare me? Tony's heart sank, and he snorted coldly, you'll know if you come here and give it a try. Then try it. Ivan didn't waste any time and started the aircraft and rushed towards Tony. Just as Tony was about to attack, Rhodes, who had been kicked down by him before, suddenly got up and hugged him tightly from behind. Tony asked in shock and anger, Rod, what are you doing? Rhodes shouted, it's not me, I can't control the suit. Sorry, I also have the core technology. Ivan smiled ferociously and swung the electric whip towards Tony's chest. Tony gritted his teeth, jumped and turned around to use Rhodes as a shield. At the same time, he quietly attached a small object to Rhodes' suit. Snap, the electric whip hit Rhodes' suit hard, and the suit was torn open. Rhodes yelled in shock and anger, Tony, plastic brother Tony took the opportunity to get out of Rod's control. Then, he flew into the sky and shouted, I've calculated that you won't die. Just wait, I'll come back to save you later. You don't have a moment. Obadiah saw that Tony was just bluffing and immediately fired missiles at Tony. At the same time, the remaining 10 unmanned suits also joined the attack. Large caliber bullets and micromissiles were flying in the air. Although Tony tried his best to avoid them, he was still bombarded to the ground by a missile. There is no way, there are too many enemies. Ivan took the opportunity to lash out at Tony with a whip. At this moment, a purple figure jumped down from the building next to him, and cut off Ivan's electric whip with a knife with a dazzling purple light. Then, the purple figure fell to the ground with a thud, its hair flying freely in the air, looking very heroic. The person who came was none other than Ling Dai. Court death. Ivan was furious and controlled the unmanned suit to use a machine gun to shoot wildly at Tony and Psylocke. Tony and Psylocke hurriedly avoided, and the bullets left a large number of small holes in the ground. At this time, a missile fell from the sky and hit an unmanned suit and exploded. The unmanned suit was torn into pieces, with various parts flying around. Ivan looked up and saw a jet plane appearing in the sky, but it was the X-Men who came to support. Jets are no match for the iron suit. You go down to join the battle, and I will control the plane to leave. Beast Hank shouted as he opened the tailgate of the fighter plane. Storm, Jean, Colossus, and Cyclops nodded, and fell to the ground surrounded by the strong wind. Officially joining the battle. On the other side, Spider-Man, who had recently been robbed of a lot of limelight by Spider-Woman, appeared on the wall of the building. When he saw the situation in the square, he immediately chose to help Iron Man. You are all going to die. Seeing reinforcements arriving one after another, Obadiah and Ivan looked very ugly and led the unmanned suits to fight with the X-Men. The X-Men arrived, and Tony couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. As he flew up to fight Ivan, he shouted excitedly to Psylocke, Wow, hot girl, you came in time. When the battle is over, we can exchange phone numbers. Number. Psylocke pressed the communicator in her ear and said, Pepper, your man has to pay more to hook up with me. Tony was dumbfounded. Psylocke was actually called by Pepper. That's right, Psylocke is not an X-Men, she was specially found by Pepper. After the last incident, the two women became friends. No problem, it's not my money anyway. Pepper's voice sounded from the communicator, and anyone could hear it. She was very unhappy. Little Pepper. Tony wanted to explain something, but at this moment, a weirdo dressed in black and red uniform rushed into the warehouse, brandished a pair of knives and shouted at Tony, "Iron Man, seduce me quickly, so I can make more money. At worst, I will give you an advantage once. The technique is superb and everyone praises it." Tony looked confused, and Psylocke couldn't help but cover her face. When she took the mission, Pepper asked her to find more people. The problem was that ordinary mercenaries were no match for the iron suit, so she took Wade with her. This guy has countless shortcomings, but he has one advantage: he can't be killed no matter how hard he fights. Well, many times, this is considered a shortcoming, such as now, on the rooftop, Howard said happily, "Tony has found a good woman, so I feel relieved." "You should use the word close your eyes." Andrew shook his head and said, "You and Tony's lives are really good. They harmed countless beautiful women. Not only did they not suffer retribution, but they each married perfect wives." Frank nodded with deep understanding, and Howard said confidently, "Boss, I don't agree with what you said. I am indeed sleeping with a beautiful woman, but the beautiful woman is also sleeping with me. This is a win-win situation. How can it be described as a disaster?" Andrew complained. "Howard, with your virtue, you are destined to go to hell with or without Mephisto." "I never thought I would go to heaven." Howard shrugged. "If an arms dealer can go to heaven, there is only one possibility. Heaven has fallen." Andrew shook his head and turned his attention to Grayburn College, which was the highlight of the night. Dr. Banner has been carried onto the helicopter, and only Dr. Stern, the 5 Bronskys and some ordinary soldiers are left in the laboratory. They are finishing the work, such as taking away the Hulk's blood. Dr. Stern sighed. "Now, let alone Nobel, even whether he can escape safely is a question." At this moment, Bronsky suddenly attacked and broke the head of an ordinary soldier. Although the other enhanced soldiers did not know the reason, they followed Bronsky immediately. Soon, all those ordinary soldiers were eliminated. Chapter 68 Hatred. You are listening at MTnovel.audio. Then, Blonsky walked up to the frightened Dr. Stern with a ferocious look and shouted, "Turn me into the Hulk, don't say you can't do it, because then you will die." Dr. Stern swallowed, looked at Bronsky up and down, and said, "You are different from ordinary people. Maybe I can do it, but this experiment is very dangerous. If something goes wrong, you may become a monster." "I don't care about becoming a monster, I just care about not having power," Bronsky shouted with a crazy look. At this time, he thought of something and said to the 4 reinforced soldiers behind him, "I will not force you, you make your own choice." "Captain, we also want the power of Hulk." The 4 enhanced soldiers shouted at the same time that the human enhancement potion made them extremely extreme and crazy. Blonsky nodded with satisfaction, and he shouted to Dr. Stern, "Start quickly." "All right." Dr. Stern did not dare to object and let the 5 people lie on the hospital bed. Then, he injected Hulk's blood, impure, into the 5 people and then irradiated them with gamma rays. In the green light, the 5 people roared in pain at the same time. Then, their strong bodies quickly swelled and changed color, and even their clothes were torn. Not long after, 5 yellow-green bald monsters nearly 3 meters tall, with muscles all over their bodies and spines extending from their backs appeared in the laboratory. Dr. Stern fell to the ground in fright. The 5 Bronskys who turned into monsters were not angry. They felt the violent power in their bodies and laughed at the same time. This was the invincible power they wanted. The 5 hatreds were officially born. New York really has all kinds of monsters. Howard sighed, and Frank made a decision in his mind to move. After this incident is over, he must move. This poor place is not suitable for people to stay. Dr. Stern was frightened. He crawled back and shouted, "Maybe I can help you recover." Blonsky felt very irritable and threw it at Dr. Stern. Dr. Stern's eyes were full of despair, and he was finished. At this moment, Dr. Stern appeared out of thin air in a floating hall, and then a human-shaped flame appeared in front of him and said, "Give me your soul, work for me, and I will save your life." Dr. Stern was stunned for a moment, and then asked cautiously, "Who are you?" I am the Demon King and your future boss, Dr. Stern. Don't waste time and sign the contract. Andrew said, I can give you the security, fame, and money you want. After speaking, a contract appeared out of thin air in front of Dr. Stern. He hesitated and chose to sign the contract. The reason was very simple. He was afraid of death, and he liked fame and fortune. Andrew was not surprised by Dr. Stern's choice and waved him away from the conscious space. Immediately afterwards, Bronsky's fist hit Dr. Stern's chest. Dr. Stern flew backwards, hit the cabinet with a bang and slid down. Of course, he did not die, but there was a big gash in his forehead, Andrew's power protecting him. Andrew took a sip of tea with satisfaction and said, Rebirth Hell is about to welcome a new genius. You mean that, Doctor? He can barely use it. Howard said that Dr. Stern is indeed a genius, but he is not on the same level as him or Trask. Andrew shook his head and said, I'm not talking about him. Howard didn't know why. At this time, the bottle containing Hulk's blood fell down due to the impact on the laboratory cabinet, and some of the blood dripped onto the wound on Dr. Stern's forehead. After fused with Hulk's blood, Dr. Stern's head began to grow larger. However, he did not feel any pain, and instead had an intoxicated look on his face. I'm talking about him. Andrew said that after Dr. Stern is infected by the blood of the Hulk, he will become Big Boss. Big Boss is the villain of the Hulk's next movie. Unfortunately, because the Incredible Hulk failed at the box office, Big Boss completely lost his appearance. After becoming the Big Boss, Dr. Stern's wisdom will increase significantly, which is why Andrew personally signed a contract with him. An ordinary genius becomes a super genius and makes a lot of money. Andrew smiled and took the future Big Boss into the Rebirth Hell. When this disaster was over, he would go see him again. Get ready to start. Then, Andrew nodded to Howard and Frank and waved them to the Anti-Cross spacecraft. At the same time, the 5 abominations could not control the rage in their hearts and jumped down from the building one after another. The soldiers discovered them and immediately surrounded them. The next second, screams and roars sounded one after another, and a disaster officially struck. General Ross, a big monster has appeared in Grayburn College. On the armed helicopter, General Ross received a frightened call from a soldier. He looked back at Dr. Banner and asked, Did you see it wrong? The big monster is on the helicopter. That's right, just as the soldier was mid-sentence, he screamed and lost contact. General Ross hurriedly asked other soldiers to transmit the image to the helicopter screen. Dr. Banner and others were shocked when they saw this. On Broadway, 5 huge monsters are at war with the army and police, or in other words, unilaterally massacred. One of the monsters completely ignored the incoming bullets and overturned a police car with one hand. The police car rolled and hit the store and exploded, with flames and black smoke rising into the sky. Another monster jumped onto an infantry fighting vehicle, and the soldiers on the vehicle were crushed together with the fighting vehicle. The remaining monsters laughed and slaughtered the troops and police wantonly. The streets were filled with blood, corpses, and flames, and countless people screamed and ran away. The prosperous Broadway has turned into a battlefield of blood and fire. To make matters worse, the disaster is quickly spreading to other neighborhoods. 5 Hulks. How is this possible? General Ross was stunned. He thought for a while and shouted, Turn around and go back. Also, let S.H.I.E.L.D. help. Norman, you are responsible for containing a monster. Good. Norman gritted his teeth, put on his armor, started the aircraft, left the helicopter and flew towards Grayburn College. Whether he could become a superhero or not depends on this time. This is all my fault. I shouldn't have sent the blood to Mr. Lon. Dr. Banner clenched his fists, his heart filled with guilt. At this moment, he remembered the blood in his arms and hesitated. On the other side, Natasha cursed, I knew something was going to happen. Logan, you contain one monster. Barton, you take charge of the overall situation. The others will follow me to contain the remaining monsters. I like killing monsters. Wolverine smiled ferociously, jumped from the 2nd floor to the street, and rushed towards an abomination. This agent is getting harder and harder to work with. Should I retire early? Barton, who was on the top of the building, shook his head and drew his longbow to aim at one of the abominations. The remaining agents followed Natasha to the battlefield. Although it was dangerous, it was their mission, wasn't it? Chapter 69 Fighting. You are listening at MTnovel. What happened here was immediately reported to Nick Fury, who immediately took command remotely. He looked at the ugly and ferocious hatred and couldn't help but cursed. Then, he took out his mobile phone from his arms and calmly opened the last year. It downloaded very quickly. Everyone in the command room looked at Nick Fury in shock. Isn't this too blatant? The employee who had been punished before was even more angry. Only the director was allowed to have fun and employees were not allowed to be lazy. I'm gathering information, Nick Fury said without changing his expression. Then, he turned on the live broadcast of Bugle TV, and as expected, he saw Roseanne, the famous Good Luck Warfield reporter in New York. Good luck is the title New Yorkers give to Roseanne. Every time something happens in New York, she appears in the most dangerous places, but nothing ever happens. As you can see, there are 5 big monsters raging here, and many people have died tragically. In addition, my new cameraman ran away again. Luo Shan carried the camera and dedicated the live broadcast. According to the news our station received, these 5 monsters are actually soldiers of the military. The reason why they became abominations is because of the military's evil experiments. While Roseanne was reporting, photos of the 5 Bronskys were shown backstage and their stories were introduced in detail. Then, the TV station cut a small window to play the video of the battle at Calvo University. Andrew had not reported the matter just for tonight. These 5 big monsters created by the military are very scary. The police and soldiers can't stop them at all. Citizens are asked to flee this area as soon as possible and don't take any chances. At this point, Roxanne paused, and then she said in a tone that you can understand, no one knows what the military will do next. The citizens were stunned for a moment when they heard this, and then their whole bodies became cold. Based on the military's ethics, if those monsters could not be dealt with, they would definitely use missiles to clear the ground. Luo Shan was obviously hinting at this. Monsters are dangerous, and armies are even more dangerous. The citizens of Manhattan swallowed their saliva and fled the area as quickly as possible. Some people can escape, but some people cannot escape, because they are surrounded by battlefields and they dare not move at all. The only thing they can do is pray to God. Of course, God did not come, but the messenger of the devil came. Yelena asked with a smile, are you willing to trade your soul after death for safety? It's open. While drinking tea, Andrew pulled the citizens who were filled with despair and fear into the illusion and signed a soul contract. At the same time, an anti-cross spacecraft appeared over the battlefield, and a large number of robots descended from the sky to move the contractors to a safe place. With the help of the haters and the military, Andrew will gain a lot this time. These monsters are actually from the military? Those bastards are really unreliable. After watching the live broadcast, Nick Fury cursed loudly. Of course, there is good news. At least, there is someone to take the blame. The Daily Bugle's intelligence is too fast and accurate, isn't it? Have they installed monitors on the monsters? Maria Hill couldn't help complaining. She asked, Director, didn't you send someone to investigate the Daily Bugle? There is obviously something wrong with the Daily Bugle. 10% of the employees of the Daily Bugle are agents of our shield. There are also people who pretend to be sweepers and bring newspaper garbage back to the branch every day. Do you think I have investigated it? Nick Fury said angrily. The Daily Bugle's information came from a mysterious person. Even their editor-in-chief doesn't know who it is. In addition, the Daily Bugle is that person's property, so we can't go too far. Maria Hill asked in confusion, what does that one want to do? I also want to know the answer. Nick Fury thought of something and asked the communications staff on the side, where is Andrew Wong now? The communications officer replied, drinking tea on the roof of the Rebirth building. How leisurely. It's good news. At the very least, he might take action. Nick Fury shook his head, turned on the communicator, and shouted to Natasha, "Natasha, these 5 abominations are weakened versions of the Hulk and have self-healing capabilities. Be careful, I have sent Quinjet fighters to support them." You. Natasha couldn't help but curse, weakened version of Hulk. Self-healing ability? Could it be worse? Maybe it can. Nick Fury said, "Natasha, special mission, go to the laboratory to remove all Hulk's blood. You cannot let them fall into the hands of others. If something goes wrong, I allow you to destroy them all." Clear. Natasha nodded and led a small team towards Greyburn College. Here, Wolverine and Abomination No. 2 were facing each other. Wolverine didn't waste any time. He rushed forward and stabbed 2 claw blades into Abomination No. 2's waist. No. 2 hated pain, grabbed Wolverine's shoulders and threw him violently. Wolverine flew hundreds of meters away, crashed through a wall and fell into a coffee shop. "It's so strong. Fortunately, my bones are made of adamantium alloy." Wolverine got up from the ground in pain, his injuries recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. At this time, Wolverine saw Abomination No. 2 rushing towards this direction, and couldn't help but cursed. The wound on the opponent's waist was gone, which meant that the opponent could also heal on his own. Wolverine hates fighting people with self-healing abilities the most in his life, because no one knows better than him how disgusting people with self-healing abilities are. Hate is. Hate, Wolverine will not be afraid. He roared and faced the charging Abomination No. 2. When the two were about to collide, he knocked No. 2 Abomination to the ground with a skillful sliding shovel. Then, Wolverine pierced Abomination 2's heart with his claws, and just as he was about to stir it up, Abomination 2 roared and punched him in the chest. Boom, the ground instantly sunk into a big pit, and Wolverine felt like his internal organs were shattered. No. 2 was so disgusted that he punched Wolverine several times in succession. Each punch caused the ground to shake violently. Then he stood up and stomped on Wolverine's head. At this moment, a sharp arrow hit the left eye of Hatred No. 2. Hatred No. 2 reacted very quickly and raised his left arm to resist. His body was very strong and the arrow only slightly penetrated the arm. The arrow was made of special alloy, otherwise, it can't even break the skin. Hatred No. 2 was about to pull out the long arrow. At this time, a large amount of electricity came out of the arrow and spread throughout Hatred No. 2's body. Hatred No. 2 froze in place, unable to move. Wolverine, who was half recovered, took the opportunity to jump up and slashed at Hatred No. 2's neck with his claw blade. He didn't believe that the other person could survive after losing his head. At this critical moment, a motorcycle flew from a distance and hit Wolverine hard. Wolverine was thrown out on the spot and flattened a car behind him with a bang, but it was Bronski who came to help. Then, with a roar, he jumped onto the wall of the building and climbed up quickly. A large amount of bricks and stones fell down, and the residents in the building shivered with fear. Hawkeye Barton cursed and used a rope arrow to escape to the building next door. His small body could not block Abomination's fist. Upon seeing this, Abomination immediately jumped from the building to give chase. Panic quickly spread to other neighborhoods. Chapter 70 Injection. You are listening at MTnovel.audio. It's time for a drumstick for Hawkeye and Blonsky. Andrew smiled and said that wherever Blonsky went, the performance of the Black Widows kept rising. There was nothing we could do, he was too scary. Patton shouted over the communicator, "When will the Quinjet come? I can only hold on for 3 minutes at most." Nick Fury said, "We're on our way, Mr. 3 minutes. Eagle Eye was speechless. Believe it or not, I went on strike on the spot. While Hawkeye was escaping, Abomination No. 2 recovered from the electric current. He was furious and rushed towards Wolverine. Wolverine pushed away the car with a fierce fighting spirit on his face. It seemed that he had a good day today. It's a fight, Wolverine is never afraid of fighting. Come on, you monster. The old Green Goblin Norman drove a black smoke aircraft to challenge Abomination No. 3. Abomination No. 3 roared, took down the lamp post and threw it at Norman. Norman avoided it nimbly, and then he controlled the aircraft to launch micromissiles at Abomination No. 3. With a bang, Abomination No. 3 was blown back a step, but he was not seriously injured, but became even more angry. The defense is about the same as the Hulk. It's really troublesome. Norman cursed, took out a particularly expensive energy gun and shot at Abomination number 3. A big wound immediately appeared on Abomination number 3's shoulder. He roared, removed the car door to use as a shield, and at the same time imitated Blonsky and climbed onto the side. Building. Idiot, do you think this will work? Norman smiled disdainfully and threw pumpkin bombs at Abomination number 3 one after another. With a bang, Abomination number 3 fell off the building and created a big crater in the ground. At the same time, the bombed bricks and stones of the building were flying everywhere, flames were burning everywhere, and the residents inside were screaming. Some of the unlucky ones were even killed directly. Norman didn't care about the citizens at all, and controlled the machine gun to shoot at Abomination. What made him depressed was that Abomination had the same self-healing ability as Hulk, which meant that he could not solve the opponent in a short time. The old Green Goblin is the old Green Goblin, there's no way he can become a superhero. Andrew looked at Norman, who was smiling strangely on the light screen, and couldn't help but shake his head. A real superhero would never attack randomly like this. Hulk has never been a real superhero, he just likes to fight. Of course, it doesn't matter whether the old Green Goblin is a superhero or not. What's important is that his unscrupulous behavior filled the people around him with fear, and the Black Widows took the opportunity to lobby them to sign a soul contract. To Andrew, the old Green Goblin was definitely a good guy. Blonsky is chasing Patton, Abomination number 2 is fighting Wolverine, Abomination number 3 is being restrained by Norman, and Abomination number 4 and Abomination number 5 are left, killing the surrounding soldiers and agents. The soldiers and agents are very brave, but unfortunately, they are no match for the Abominations. They are just using their lives to delay time. When Frank and Howard saw this, they looked at each other and fell from the sky to stop the two enemies. Andrew did not stop him. He didn't care about the small loss of souls. After all, he was in big business, with an axe in one hand and a shield in the other. Howard was both offensive and defensive, barely able to contain Abomination number 4, as for Frank, he is a complete offensive person. He relies on powerful firepower to suppress Abomination number 5. Abomination number 5 grits his teeth in anger. Let me see how many arms you have. When you run out of shells, I will tear you apart. With the help of the two steel suits, the soldiers and agents finally breathed a sigh of relief. However, they did not escape and supported Howard and Frank. At SHIELD headquarters, Maria Hill sighed, fortunately there is the Peace Knights, otherwise many people would have died. The actions of the Peace Knights are too weird. It doesn't matter that they come to save people every time. The key is that some of them save and some don't. This is really incomprehensible. Nick Fury said, Coulson has been investigating their intelligence, but found nothing, as if they are not from this world. After a pause, Nick Fury continued, more importantly, their robots are constantly increasing, which means they are constantly getting stronger. This is very dangerous. Maybe one day they will endanger the world. Hill knew that paranoid Nick Fury was having another episode. Why haven't the fighter jets come yet? Do you want to go to court-martial? On the armed helicopter, General Ross shouted angrily with a communicator that if he wanted to eliminate those damn abominations, he must clear the ground with large-scale missiles. Betty heard this and shouted, Dad, there are many people down there. General Ross said ironically, if we don't kill those monsters, more people will die. Those so-called superheroes can't stop them at all. This can't be like this, no more people can die because of me. Dr. Banner looked at the tragic situation below, gritted his teeth, took out the tube of blood from his arms, and said to Betty, Betty, I'm sorry. Bruce. Betty knew what Dr. Banner was going to do, and her eyes were full of tears, but she didn't stop it. Now, only Hulk can save everyone. In the past 5 years, I have always wanted to get rid of the Hulk. I never thought that today I would take the initiative to become the Hulk. It seems that this is my fate. Dr. Banner sighed and injected the blood into his body. This tube of blood was originally his and did not require any special assistance. Soon, the blood took effect, and Dr. Banner's body quickly grew larger and turned green. He roared in pain and jumped out of the tailgate. Betty yelled and was grabbed by General Ross. Abomination number 4 was smashing a car into Howard. At this moment, with a bang, a heavy object fell from the sky and made a big hole in the ground. Hatred number 4 couldn't help but look towards the pit. At this time, a big green hand stretched out from the pit, and then, a big green man climbed up, crawling, not jumping. "I'm actually still sane." Dr. Banner looked at his big hands, a little excited. This time he transformed. He did not lose his mind. Although his body became bigger and greener, he was still the same Banner. "Banner, you are still on the same path." Andrew shook his head and was not optimistic about Dr. Banner at all. Banner's wisdom plus Hulk's power sounded perfect, but in fact, it was nothing. "I wonder if Dr. Banner can return to his human form." Andrew touched his chin. "It would be fun if Dr. Banner was the same as Avengers 4, seeing the Hulk appear." Nick Fury and others couldn't help but smile on their faces. "With Hulk here, those damn hatreds should be solved." At this time, Maria Hill said suspiciously, "Director, why does this Hulk feel wrong? The original Hulk was mighty and domineering, but this Hulk feels like a green fool, and the muscles on his body are not as fierce as the Hulk." "Green Hanin." Nick Fury blinked, and an ominous premonition suddenly filled his heart. "Hulk." Number 4 hated seeing the Hulk and was so excited that he immediately gave up on Howard and rushed towards him. At this moment, a tall figure rushed from the side and knocked him away. Then, the figure shouted loudly, "The Hulk is mine." The person who came was none other than the hated Captain Bronski. He was full of anger towards the Hulk, and without any nonsense, he immediately rushed forward with a rumble.